Hope everybody's paying attention today because we have a friend calling in from Los Angeles, and her name is Marie Diamond, and she talks about Feng Shui in your life. So welcome to the show, Marie. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much. And you pronounce it perfectly.
Cool. So talking about that, I talked to a buddy of yours or cohort of yours, Dr. Vital. He was in the Secret, right? You were in the Secret?
Yeah.
And kind of, when you talk about law of attraction, because I think people have things innately in them that takes them down a certain road. When did you really dive into what you're doing today?
Well, it actually all started for me when I was 15 years old, a long time ago. And I was run over by a truck and I had a near-death experience. And when I was on the other side, I received a message that I had to return to enlighten more than 500 million people. That was the message was given. And when I returned, of course, I had no idea what that really meant. I was already meditating. I was already aware of how my thoughts and feelings could attract things because I already had a spiritual mentor since I was 7. So I was very open as a child already. But then I asked my spiritual mentor, what did I do wrong? Like, I've been praying, I've been doing affirmations, I've been trying to be the best I can be in my mind, in my thoughts, with gratitude. And he said, you just have bad feng shui. Now, of course, I had no idea what that meant at that time. Living in a Catholic family, in a small country, Belgium, there were no books in the library on feng shui. And so I started understanding, because he gave me some pointers, that it was all about the environment, that your environment, not just people, but also your physical spaces where you live, sleep, and work are actually affecting how you feel, how your mind is, and also it affects your law of attraction. And I started doing some basic things, changing colors, changing rooms, different images, and my life started turning around in a good way, from being very bullied at school to having a lot of friends, my first love, just feeling so much better as a human being. And so that's where my journey really started.
Interesting. Now, was this something that's talked about in your family, because it's a pretty young age to get involved in this spirituality route when there's a lot of traditional models, I'll say, in the marketplace for religion and thought process. I mean, what would your family doing at the time?
Well, my family were traditional Catholic, but they were very open to when they got special dreams, and they would listen to that. Now, also when I was young, before I was born, actually, my father had a spiritual mentor who was a Catholic priest, and he lived in Canada at that time. And he told him that he would have another child, but in Belgium, that he would return. He's like a clairvoyant. And he said, this child that will come will be very clairvoyant, will see energy, and you need to listen when she says things to you. And so my family was very aware of that. When I said things when I was a child, I remember I was 5 and I saw my grandfather, and my mom was very upset. And I said to her, don't be upset. Tomorrow he's dead. And the next day he died from a heart attack. So small things like this was really interesting. And they listened to me. So when I told these things that I had been on the other side, things I needed to do, that I need to change, they always listened to me. So there was no resistance, because a Catholic priest had told them that I would have some gifts. And he also told very clearly there are gifts from God that will be given to her. So they were kind of at ease, to be honest, with all of this.
When you talk about Belgium, what is the bloodline in Belgium? What are the people? Is that Scandinavian? Is that tied to any of the Norse people?
It is actually the center of Europe. So it's interesting. We have a lot of Scandinavian influences because the Norman came in, there and invaded. But we got so much invasions. We got invasions from the French. We got invasions from the Spanish. We got invaded by, of course, the Germans in the 2 world wars. We never got invaded by the English. But I would say we are quite a mix of culture. And I think it's one of the reasons we are very good with languages. So most Belgians speak at least 3 languages. I speak 4, but that's kind of natural. We have a gift for that because we were in our DNA. We have connections with a lot of languages.
Because, when you talk about feng shui in your environment, I don't think the environment is addressed enough, especially with pocket narratives and things that are put out to the masses and things like that kind of drive people down a certain road and they don't even realize what they're doing. So when you talk about environment and so forth, how does that look to you and how do you understand that? Because I don't think a lot of people really understand what environment really looks like for their life.
Yeah, well, I think people intuitively have a feeling about it because there are places where you love to be, like if in your home, and there are places you will avoid. Or even you go to a restaurant and it feels like your favorite restaurant. I'm sure the chef there is so good as in other restaurants, but you just love the vibe there, right? So I think intuitively or instinctively, we do really connect in with the environment, but we don't never put like a finger on it, like why it is. So, Feng Shui is an energy system from the Chinese culture. It's kind of, you can compare it with like acupuncture or Tai Chi or Qigong. It's all about following the flow of energy, the flow of Qi. And so what we do, for example, in acupuncture, they look where things are blocked and then they put like a needle or something, right, to get the flow going. Well, think about your home is like a bigger body and it's like Feng Shui is like acupuncture. Now we don't put needles out, but we're using colors, images, elements like water, fire, earth, wood, metal to put certain things around so that your environment is coming in harmony and feels at peace. Now, from a manifestation perspective, when I started working with the law of attraction and why I ended up also in The Secret was I was the only one talking how your environment was affecting subconsciously nonstop your mind and your feelings. And so it's possible you have set your goals, you have been praying, you have been doing affirmations, and you still don't reach what you really want to receive in your life. And I always say, like, it's possible your inner story is correct, but the outer story, the story in your environment is perhaps telling a different story, a different energy. Like say you want romance, but everything around you is literally telling you are alone by hanging images of women or men alone. So even in your bedroom and you're like, oh, I have this beautiful romantic image of a woman alone. Well, that is not telling that you want to attract a partner. So subconsciously, everything around you is like, I almost call it, in The Secret, we talk about vision boards. It's like a 3-dimensional vision board. Everything affects you. And we do feel it on a certain level. And that's why we sometimes start changing things around us, or we want to repaint or buy something new, but there is no system behind it. And so Feng Shui is really a system that is thousands of years old that was understood that there are principles and laws that we can work. So for me, it's getting access to 1/3 of the results of the law of attraction. And another third is like people, they have innate talents, for example, or they are born in a certain country with certain family. That's like your destiny, right? And then there's another part that says from the law of attraction, yes, you can change your manifestation with a different mindset, with feeling differently about your life, having different perception, taking actions that are more focused towards your goals. And that's all is relevant. But what I've seen that is the missing link, and that's what I talked about in The Secret, and what I've been teaching for the last 30 years, is your environment is affecting you and is actually the easiest to change. Changing your mindset is not so easy, but changing your desk around or hanging something different, that is quite practical and easy.
So how do you break that down? How do you break down, when do you know you should change something, and what does that mathematically look like?
Well, it is, your destiny is considered 1/3 of your results. Your thoughts and feelings and your actions is considered another third, and your environment is also 33.3%. And that is a lot if you compare that. And so that's the area where most people haven't focused on. So if you have been doing prayers and meditation, taking action, really trying to have a discipline to improve your body, your mind, and you feel the results are not there, then I'm telling you, it would be good to look at your environment. And that's exactly what I experienced with, for example, people that are top authors in this field, like Jack Canfield, John Gray, the late Bob Proctor, also the producers from The Secret, they all called me when they felt they were stuck. And they were like, Marie, it's like everything I do is like, I feel like I'm hitting a ceiling, I'm hitting a wall. And I said, let's look at your environment. And the moment I made sure their environment was aligned with what their inner story is and their inner focus is, then it's like the door opens up and there's like a new wind, because Feng Shui means wind and water. So it's like a new wind, a new water flow of money, of abundance, of good energy that comes in. So I would say your home can open the doors, but it can also block the doors to attract the success, the health, relationships, and inspiration that you want. So I've seen lately, because I've been working for 30 years on this, that a lot of people that have done The Secret, that have used law of attraction, manifestation, that they're like suddenly, oh, they have done a lot of inner work. They have done a lot of good actions, and then they add the environment, and suddenly there's this flow of new gifts and new energies that's coming in. So now people seeing it really as the missing link, what I've been telling for a long time, but now I feel more and more people are open to it.
Well, when I think about it, and you think about the non-conscious, which you said the non-conscious is one third, and what was the other 1/3?
So it's actually what we call heavenly luck. That's your destiny, your karma. That is, like, I would say, your law of attraction at birth, what you came in with. Yeah. Then there's a 1/3 that is, what do you do as a human being? Like, what do you do with your talents? Possibly you can sing very well, but you never do something. And then 1/3 is your environment. But we know that subconsciously, as human beings, 95% of what we do is subconscious. And it's about 5% that we do is conscious. But if you think about your environment, is nonstop subconscious energy and information all the time. You open a door, your subconscious picks everything up. Even if perhaps consciously you only see a chair or you see a plant, but your subconscious picks everything up.
Yeah, well, the non-conscious is something that's not really talked about. That's kind of where science stops, and it's basically what you're saying. It's what's innately in you, and I don't know. I've been trying to crack the code on that, because when science stops there, and then talking about what you said, when they take philosophy or intuitiveness out of the science play, and really when you talk about, if you break down that third of environment, you have this innate thing in you, whoever you are when you're born. Really, that's the beginning in the setup.
Yes.
Because you know what I mean? Because I've talked about that, I think all these people that have been in this world for more than 5 years, their subconscious is already programmed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you understood, when these new kids or whoever come into the world, right, that's the beginning. Let's walk through that process. Let's structure an environment that is going to fit with what you're talking about.
Yeah, and this is very beautiful what you said, that it's really set up at the beginning. That's why when we look at Feng Shui, we have a system that says there is a energetic setup when you're born. And that's why people look up and they can do that for free on my Mary Diamond app. They have to put in their birthday and their birth gender, because that's your original design, your energetic DNA. And so based on a calculation that is made on the app, you will get an energy number. But what you then get from it are 4 directions of the compass that will actually be the strongest for you to attract success and money, health and well-being, relationships and wisdom. And so when people then hold the compass, and they will receive a very specialized compass that looks like this. And so they stand in the center of the room that they want to work with. So I would say go and for the areas that you spend the most time in, like a living room, family room, your workspace, your bedroom. Right? This is like then you will have like activated 24 hours almost.
Mm-hmm.
And so you hold that space and you hold the compass on the app, and you will have your success direction. So when you look at your success direction, and if there, because that's your energetic DNA, it says there's good energy for you, right? There's like a portal that attracts, it's like an access to the subconscious quantum field that is literally the strongest for you. That is your access. And if you there have clutter, if you have there the wrong images, or perhaps you have even nothing there, then you actually are telling no story. You're not giving any impulse. So from from an acupuncture perspective, we would place there books on success, like my new book, Feng Shui Your Life, that's just available on Amazon and good bookstores. I put that there. I put my awards there. I put there, things that I feel are like representing my success. Yeah. And then I look always in my relationship direction. And my relationship direction, I put definitely an image of my family. Yeah. I put an image of my team. I have students in 190 countries and more. So I put a globe there. I put like symbols that represent what I want. So even if I am not looking at these directions, I'm just coming into the room, my subconscious mind taps into that field right away and it starts manifesting it more easily because of that, my goals and my focus and my vision. Because most people don't think about their vision and their goals all the time, right? Sometimes when we do a journal or we think about it once in a while, but think about if your home can, remind you all the time, your space, what you want, what you desire. That is where the subconscious is repeating and reminding all the time, this is what she desires. Let's manifest that. Yeah. So that is how we have worked out. And this is what we call personalized feng shui, but it is connected with your original design when you are born.
Well, I have a theory about that because I've had some quantum physics and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, and I think my podcast is like a scavenger hunt to crack these codes of humanity, because I created this thing because I've been a partner with Meta for almost 5 years. I've helped design departments for them. And really, I started to understand that human behavior and social media are a mirror of themselves. The only difference is the algorithm that whatever app it is their business model that tries to balance based on their business model. That's what the algorithm does, tries to create balance based on their agenda. So when I started realizing that and started pushing, I wrote this book called Finding a Perfect Audience. I started pushing, and I came up with this thing, Creation of Four. And I talked to different people around the world. Talked to one guy, he said God, in his Theoba prophecy, they talked about God created the universe in 4 powers. And I knew the universe was in 4 parts. Then I went to, and this is something I talk about a lot, and I went to the planets. There's 4 terrestrial planets, there's 4 gas planets. The gas planets are supposed to represent the senses, and then creation being linear and tied to the body, right? The sun, the moon, and Pluto are the moving parts. The sun is the root chakra, Mercury, Venus, Earth is the heart chakra, Mars is the throat chakra, the moon is the third eye, and then Pluto is the crown chakra because it's on the edge of the universe. Then I had this other information come through, it kept going. If you linear. So look at Earth, inner core, outer core, mantle, crust, east, west, 4 directions. There's 4 gases. You're made of 4 humors. There's 4 blood types.
Yeah.
And on and on and on. 4 chambers in the heart, 4 parts of your brain. Since I talk about the pineal, people don't realize that the pineal gland is God's data center. We've calcified it. So if you want more sensory, you need to uncalcify your pineal gland.
Yeah.
So speaking to this creation of 4 and what you said. So when you think about that non-conscious, Book of Gates, has a book said there was 4 human beings. There was Libyan, Nubian, Egyptian, and Asiatic were the 4 types, blood types, 4 humans. And that would speak to going 4 different directions.
Yeah.
So actually, if you're thinking about what you're saying, it almost cracks a code of there were 4 human beings to start humanity instead of 2.
Yeah, it's really interesting because in Feng Shui, we call that the 4 pillars of a harmonious life. Yeah. So a lot of people are there focusing just on money, then they will not be in harmony. They have to balance also the health and the relationship and their wisdom. And wisdom is like your inspiration, your connection with God, the way you educate yourself. So if these 4 are not in balance, then you cannot center yourself and be aligned with the universe. That is kind of what we say. And it's really interesting when you talk about the principle of 4. In Feng Shui, we have that too. And then we have 4 subsections where ultimately we come to 8. And then 8 multiplied by 8 is considered 64, who is again the 64 aspects of the DNA. And that is then based on the book, the I Ching, with all the 64 hexagrams. So it's very interesting is that we start with the principle of 4 and then we are building up on it. Yeah. And
that's linear. That process is linear too.
It is linear. Yes.
Yeah.
It is. And so it's very interesting when you come up with that. And it's like a lot of people want to be in harmony. They want to be successful, but they are out of balance. Like I have a lot of celebrity clients. And of course, their success and money area is very strong. And perhaps they have worked on their health, but then they haven't worked on their relationships and they haven't worked on their inspiration and their alignment with God. And so once they do that, they center themselves and they can go to the next level. So they can go to it's like a dynamic spiral almost between the 4 areas. Yeah. So if they are not in balance, how can you evolve? Yeah. So evolve and connect in with the higher potential, literally.
Yeah. Well, do you think we just cracked a universal code that the information's right there? You know what I mean?
It is. It's always there. And once I understood that, and it was very interesting, my grandmaster who passed on, but he was a tycoon. He was a billionaire and a Feng Shui master, a grandmaster. And he told me, always make sure your 4 pillars are in place, because otherwise you will never reach the success that you want. Even if you think I'm just focusing on success and money, he said you will not get to the next level. And I've always honored that. And, you know, from being a lawyer in Belgium to become, you know, a worldwide transformational speaker and leader in my field, I would say if I did not follow that rule of 4, I would not have gotten there.
Interesting. Because, and I don't know, I mean, I have Native American on both sides of my family, and I've been going through this enlightenment for several years now, and, you know, have energy coming out my hands. And when I get around people that have a lot of energy, more energy will come out of my hands. Like I can feel it when people, you know, because I can feel what people do. So it's very, very interesting that, you know, we can sit here and understand this information and it's out to the world. Why are we not resetting it? You know, rebirthing things the right way or birthing things the right way, because that kind of speaks to the process I did finding a perfect audience. Is everything now I think needs to be birthed properly or rebirthed properly. Yeah. Or, you know, because there's no more narratives left.
No, they are not. And it's really interesting when you talk about that, because like I just turned 60 this year and I've been in the field for 30 years in the self-help spiritual world. And I really woke up that morning on my 60th birthday and like, go mainstream. That was like, this information needs to go mainstream because its narrative needs to be rebirthed. Like it's thousands of years old, but it needs to be rebirthed. That is why I have an upcoming TV series on a major network in the coming months where I teach people. I literally go in. It's like a reality show in a way. Like I come in, tell what's going on and tell them what they have to change, because I do believe that missing link and harmonizing this aspects of 4 in your home, that area where it's so easy to change something. You don't need a discipline for it. But what will happen if they do that is that their mindset will start changing. Their feelings in the heart will start changing. They'll open up to the higher chakras, and that ultimately will change and fulfill their real destiny, their real purpose they have in life. But too many people don't even know what their purpose is because they're not grounded. They're not in harmony with the earth frequencies. And so once they do that to their home, I've seen the shifts happening. It's like, I don't want to say magic, but it's a magical results that people say like, I'm stuck for so long and suddenly this and this start happening because they're creating this positive vortex, in their home, and it starts swirling up, and like energetically they can go finally to be who they really are. So I'm super excited, and thank you for having me on your podcast, because this is where I want people to understand. They feel it already. They know something is off with their environment. And especially during the COVID time, people became more aware of it because they were both living, working, and having the social life in their own space, sometimes a small space, and they did not know how to find an equilibrium. Yeah. So when you have these 4 aspects in space, and you find your balance. And then when you find your balance, you can grow, you can evolve into what you really are here meant to be.
Yeah. I mean, I can take that even deeper, and I think, the other thing is I go to Curacao a lot, and I go in this year again. This will be my third year going, and there's no predators around the ABC Islands. The weather, there's no hurricanes. The weather's the same year round. And when I started looking, and I said, all right, I always said you can find answers to anything in the foundation. So then when I started looking at the foundation, I think that area, based on the limestone, is the densest part of the earth. Let's just say if that's true. I haven't verified that or whatever, but it's weird. There's no predators in the water. There's no predators on the islands. There's no hurricanes. It's the same year round. So if that's the densest part in the world, that's a vibrational thing there, because all that land was created by volcanoes underwater. There's an underflow from Antarctica right near the ABC Islands, because when you go off the island, it drops like straight down. So if you reverse engineer that, and let's say that's the densest place in the world, and environment is vibrational. When you understand environment is vibrational, you could predict where diamonds are. You could predict where gold is based on the density from the densest part of the earth. And the reason I speak to that is because, to me, the foundation and the vibrations of that foundation creates the environment, which gives it a different look around the world. Because when you add the other four parts, the four elements, there's four elements to that. Think about that. And then you put that, because I said, the reason I explain this, if environment is vibrational, and then you have the four elements, and then you take the non-conscious, and you take the non-conscious, and this human being, there's four human beings, and there's no emotions yet attached to that non-conscious. It's just the innate bloodline or whatever that is. It speaks to that being linear based on the environment. So if you look at cultures around the world that keep perpetuating an area, it may not be good for their culture, right? Because they're in the wrong place in the world. Does all that make sense?
That makes sense. And so, but I also believe that sometimes it's, perhaps that's part of the plan, right? That to create this mix of flows all together. But in that moment of bringing all these different flows and different human aspects together, first there will be chaos. Yeah. That will be normal. Right? Because if you think about, if you would be in the center of, or you're like in a tornado, right? Like you have all these winds, you will feel very, chaotic. It's disorder. But when you find then the center inside, when you are in the tornado, in the center, you literally are calm. You're peaceful. Yeah. So if you, one day, I do believe that all these different flows and this mix that is happening will come to a moment of peace and harmony, and will ultimately create perhaps, a new way of living together, a new way of a new exponential vibration. And we are right now in the chaos of getting all these different flows together. And that's why I do believe at least having a space in your home where you are that is grounded, that is in balance, will help you when you go out in the world, or you receive this information from all these different flows that are coming in, to at least be able to handle it better, or to sustain it better, or to be okay with all these different informations. Because as you know, we're just in the midst of that big change. And even in Feng Shui, we see, there are cycles of 20 years, and then there are bigger cycles of 180 years. And then there are even bigger cycles that they have found linear, how this evolution is happening. And we are now starting in 2024 a new 20-year cycle, and we call that the cycle of fire. Yeah. Okay. And so it starts literally the 4th of February 2024 for 20 years. And we came out of a cycle of 8. Now, 8 is all about information and data. Everybody wants to gather as much data as possible. And once they have the data, they want to share that data. They want to share that information. Like everybody feels like a teacher. Everybody has an idea. They put it on all the social media, right? So it's just like, it is a sharing of ideas. Now, between 2020 and 2024, we are getting a clash between period 8 and the period 9. And so the fire comes in. And when the fire comes in, it's like literally the first thing when we want with fires, we we want to be in silence. We want to be calm. And so that's literally happened in 2020. The fire came in and it's like suddenly that data, that huge information level dropped. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody became silent. Like literally the world became silent. But now the closer we're getting to 2024, we are literally, and we're in it, right? In a few weeks, like literally what happens is that fire starts coming forward. And what is the element of fire is follow your passion. Yeah. It's also a time of new potential of technology. It's all about finding also in all this whirlwind of information, like what matters to you, like what is important to you. And so it's something where we need to handle literally the fire in the world, like literally the heat. Yeah, the warmth that is there, the warming up of the planet, what is, kind of visible in some places more and more. And so it's also is a time of invention, time of creativity. And so I do believe in the next 20 years, we will find the solutions because we're coming in that time of fire that says things will be revealed. Yeah. It's a time of revelation. And so it's very interesting. The Chinese have looked for 10,000s of years. They have calculated that linear unfolding. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just want to share that. Perhaps that gives more insight about the way.
Well, you know what? I mean, I'm kind of getting excited because there's one more thing. It's just very odd. There's one more thing that I thought of, and going back to the thing when you talking about the non-conscious and taking that bloodline and putting them there with no emotion, you could, if you understand those, what I was saying too, if you understand the vibrations and understand the environment and there's no emotion in that bloodline, you could predict where those 4 different innate bloodlines would go. So as you're talking about what you're saying there, this rationale came to me. And this is something I said too. I said, we feed off what we see. We are a society of feeding off what we see. So we continue to create opinions and controversy. And I always talk about passion as well. So maybe the evolution is, since there's such a mix of the original types of bloodline, it's really just finding thyself, quit giving ourselves away, finding ourselves, centering ourselves, which if you center yourself, it's going to kind of be like creating a new environment with a new idea and a new direction that will eliminate opinions and controversy. So I've always said that, but then based on your rationale of passion and just thinking about how society is today, I think that may be the answer. It's all about the people, wherever they're at in the world, finding themselves, creating their new environment and their new direction for themselves.
Yeah, I agree, because the fire is also just, it needs first a passion, it needs the inner fire. But the 9 also stands for completion. And so it's ultimately to find your space in the universe. And it's not just any space, it's your enlightened space in the universe. Yeah. And so to complete your journey doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It just means it's the end of a cycle. And then in 2044, we're starting a new cycle. But there's like an ending of 180 years that started literally with the Industrial Revolution. And now we have a revolution of spirit, because the 9 stands also for the passion of your spirit. So it is actually in the next 20 years, if you don't follow the passion of your spirit, your purpose, what you're here to bring into the world, then you will not make the growth, the evolution that you should be. And I think if everyone human-wise could connect with what I'm really here for, what is that I'm here to make a difference in, what is my passion to bring to the world, once people start going there, then that's actually where we will find ourselves and will find harmony and peace between the people that are coming from all these 4 types in the world, wherever they are.
Well, and I want to get into the book before we get off here, but the other thing, I was talking to this tarot card reader in London, Carrie Ward, and I thought she's very good at what she does. And, we're talking about, I had this other rationale about, if you wanted to solve world problems, if each country found their own country, because if you look at that from an individual's perspective of how we're looking for somebody to get to, we're looking to get this, we're looking to get this, and we're never thinking about ourselves. Wonder if each country thought about themselves and focused on their country and quit worrying about everybody else. Even if you didn't have oil in your country, I'm sure you have other resources you could focus on to let your people survive. How much stronger would each country be if each country found themselves?
Well, that's a way to look at things for sure.
Yeah.
I do believe there's also the other side. I do
Yeah.
believe we're getting into a new, even from these four elements of human DNA and design, I do believe we come to one new, I would say, global aspect that we're also finding each other. And I do believe the mix of the countries, like I lived in 7 countries, right? So the
Yeah.
wisdom that I received from being in all these countries, I have clients and students in so many countries, just that perspective of traveling and connecting with people from all different backgrounds. I do believe that also made me a better human being and a more compassionate human being, whatever people's background are. So perhaps there are some people that need to focus on their countries, but perhaps there are also other people like me that need to be the connectors, yeah, between the different countries and races and cultures and backgrounds. So I would not say it's just one way. I do believe it's also at the same time the other way. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, well, nah, 100%. That's just me going deep on a process. But I think that to what you just said too is I've always said that everybody in the world has the same sensitivities and it speaks to your specialty. The only difference in that sensitivity is the environment. Based on that environment, that's where the stereotypes come from. But really, everybody has the same sensibilities and sensitivities.
They do, but they are most of the time not in connection with it, right? You are, I am, and I hope many of your listeners are. But it's just like, it's sometimes so difficult to connect in with that because of the nonstop streaming of data that is coming to you, and that people are just following other people instead of standing still, taking some time to listen. And you can only listen to what is inside of you when there's silence, when there's harmony around you. So that's why I've seen when people work with their environment in their home and they create I would say almost like space, like to listen to what they are, to even the people in their own home, to listen to that. Because we can focus on your own country, but what about your own space, your own family? If you don't have created space there to listen to each other because everything is chaotic. And how can you listen to each other when there's clutter everywhere, when there's like all the images are telling strange stories through your subconscious mind? So if you could go there, finding ourselves in our own space and create an enlightened home, yeah, so that we don't have to go to, I don't know, India or Bali or finding yourself wherever people are traveling right now for it, that you can find yourself where you live. I do believe that. And then when you use a system for it, that you then people come in my home and literally they don't want to leave because the energy is so beautiful. And they're like, oh, this is so peaceful. And there's space to listen. Yeah, there's space to hear each other, right? There's space to hear what is inside of you. And so we don't need all the time to go to a church or a temple. I mean, these are great sacred spaces for it. But sometimes in our busy time, we can't go there all the time. And just, there's space inside of to do that. I think that will be a big change maker for the future.
Yeah. Well, Marie, I could keep going and going with you. I think we're in sync somehow or another. It's like what you're giving me more intel, this kind of plugging into some of my thought processes. But tell us a little bit about the book and what you're looking to achieve about the book.
Yes. So the book is called Feng Shui Your Life, and it is a beginner's guide to use your home to attract the dream life or the life of your dreams. So, when a lot of people, I've been speaking all over the world to so many people. And, there's a lot of books perhaps on Feng Shui, but this is the first book where it's really talk about how Feng Shui and manifestation and law of attraction works together. So this is like my basic information. And especially I will ask people then also to download my app, and the information you need stays for free all the time. And so that people can literally practically start right away with looking at their space and looking like, okay, what are these 4 pillars? What am I missing out on? I'm good in my health, but I'm not really good in my connection with God or the universe. Or, what do I need to balance it out? And so it's a very practical book. So it's like every chapter brings you to a next step in a practical way, because I'm a very practical person with Feng Shui, but it is based on the traditional Chinese Feng Shui information. I am a traditional classic Feng Shui master, but I brought it together with the law of attraction, with the quantum physics of the environment. And so my idea is, and this is also connected with my upcoming, TV series, that when people see me or they hear me, that they, one book that they need, that is Feng Shui Your Life. With that itself, you can do so much. And I always say, this is like what, the VIP people and the celebrities pay me thousands of dollars for. I want people to have access, first of all, to a tool that is for free, even if your budget is not that big, right? It's a free tool. And it's a book that is reasonably priced. So I think it's like mostly $16 worldwide. And then they have access to go to my podcast, the Mari Diamond Show, or they can go to my YouTube channel or my TikTok or my Instagram, where there's a lot of information for free. I do believe my celebrity clients pay me very well. So I want as much people worldwide to know for, simple amounts, and even for free information, that they can start to focus on that missing link of manifestation when they were hitting a ceiling, when they felt stuck. What can they do practically, like in an hour? Literally, they can change things already around. And it's not that you need a big budget. Most people have things in their house. It can be a color that they have. It can be, perhaps they have a book on success they can put somewhere. I mean, we have in the Western world a lot of things already. And so this is not about putting your walls down or repainting everything. It's about literally using the things that you have already, but replacing them and perhaps changing your desk around or hang something different about your headboard. So just practical, easy steps to really tap into that missing link that we were just been talking about.
Awesome. Well, you explain things very, very well. Sometimes when I explain things, I make them a little more complicated, but you explain things very, very well. And I think people should get the book, because it really is the beginning of life, really, when you think about the structure of that, of what you're doing in the universe and where we're at with it. It needs to be out there more. So go find that book. And where can you find the book?
Well, of course, you can find it on Amazon and in good bookstores worldwide.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Marie. I think we cracked a couple codes.
I hope so. And I learned so much from your side too. That's always wonderful to have this win-win experience of sharing knowledge. Thank you so much, John. And
well,
for your wonderful work.
Yeah, you taught me a ton. It gave me so much insight in the past conversation, little time we spent together for the first time. You gave me a lot of information that really resonated with me, because sometimes I'm questioning, like, am I crazy or what's going on here? But,
you are not, just awakened to more information than most people have.
Cool. Well, this has been Marie Diamond, and I am John Edmonds Cosma, the CEO of Bang Productions. Thank you.